My name is Jessica Helfand, and I've written a book called Scrapbooks, An American History. Scrapbooking in America is the fastest growing American hobby. And I was very interested to find out why and when it started and where it came from. So initially I started collecting them, finding them in antique stores, finding them on eBay. And over time, people that know me knew I was interested, and so things started to come my way. And it really took a while to let it percolate until I could figure out what, where do you start? Where do you end? There's so many. People were just copious keepers of things. And it's the big difference between scrapbooking yesterday and today is that people didn't go out and buy new things. They took whatever was there. They just grabbed it. Thomas Jefferson kept scrapbooks. Mark Twain kept scrapbooks. And the more I looked, the more I found these remarkable stories of people who, for whatever reason, felt compelled to keep these visual records of their lives. And I'm a graphic designer, so this was very interesting to me. Why not just keep a diary? Why not just keep a journal? What was it about saving things and pasting them in books that became this kind of beacon of memory that now, 100 years later, looking at them, becomes such a compelling form? There were so many points of entry for me as a visual maker and designer to want to explore these incredible collages and compilations of various disparate forms, but I did not want to organize it chronologically because that was the story of technology and not the story of people. When you look at each story individually and you string them together, you have a history. You have a social, cultural, intensely visual history of a time in America that we really don't tend to look at in this way. And so it was this incredible journey for me that I don't think when I set out to write the book I knew I was going to embark on. That has been enormously rewarding because it's an enlightening thing to imagine that you can learn something about someone else's life by not thinking so much about your own life. And this is the really interesting thing, I think, that we tend to think of scrapbooking as this sort of myopic navel-gazing of me, me, me. But when you look at other people's scrapbooks, you learn about them, and then you know yourself in a new way. And that's really a great gift. Thematically, organizing the book around big ideas helped me to look sort of at the umbrella ideas within which very different kinds of people perhaps made things that look different, but might be telling similar stories. In other cases, I looked at the very formal mediums of making something. Scotch tape wasn't invented until like 1930, 1929, 1930, so people saved things with Band-Aids and cloth tape and wax and chewing gum, anything they could. Before there was an arena in which scrapbooking was a kind of sanctioned, condoned social activity, people just made them because they gave them pleasure. They figured out who they were and where they were going by pasting things in books. And so I started to really understand a kind of American history through these larger themes into which I could weave individual stories to try to make sense of this part of history that I think is so rich and in many ways forgotten. Well, one of the things that I think is so interesting is that people a generation or two ago, when they saved things in scrapbooks, did not just save paper, they saved objects. I have scrapbooks with firecrackers and candle grease and cigarette butts, chewing gum, already chewed up chewing gum sticks, ads, funny juxtapositions, a prayer card next to a picture of Rudy Valentino. There's this sense of almost a snapshot of your life. Here's a receipt, here's a letter, here's a love letter, here's a calendar page. Unlike a diary or a calendar that tells you to put things in order, people just save things and they would go backwards and forwards and annotate and elucidate and excavate and change. There would be divorces, there would be deaths, and so you have this wonderful texture of people saving the things that matter to them. And so, on every level, these scrapbooks are varied in what they have. They're wonderful sort of little time capsules of social history from all regional parts of the United States. And I only concentrated on American scrapbooks because if I didn't, I never would finish this book. It would just go on forever. And hopefully, if people read my book, they'll see that you can make a lot from nothing. And it's an extremely authentic medium in which to work and very rewarding, extremely rewarding. I think that there is something remarkably moving about this very individualized form that, taken cumulatively, sort of bespeaks a kind of general perspective on a generation of people. And I hope that readers who see this book understand that there's this rich legacy that came before them that they should feel pretty proud of and pretty excited about continuing in whatever way they seek to do.